feel like that went slower for some
A little
reason.
bit.
The music was like a different pitch than it usually is. It's usually higher than that. Anyway, we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to season 2, episode 7 of History's Greatest Idiots, the show in which we look back through history and find all of the greatest and most ridiculous mistakes in human history and give them to you on a plate, an audio or visual plate, and give you lessons so that you can learn from these mistakes and never make them the same mistakes again. But who are we kidding? We're humans. Mistakes are fun. We enjoy them. And occasionally we make them when we're introing podcasts. So that's kind of a cool thing. I screwed up quite nicely there.
Hey, that's have you heard me present anything?
You're good. You should stop. We're both professionals. We should both stop being so harsh on ourselves. We both have backgrounds in radio that stretch back 20 years. So we're professionals. We're old school. We're fucking old school. We're the Run DMC of the podcasting world. My God.
Yeah.
Hell yes, we are. Joining me as ever is my amazing co-host, Derek. Derek, how are you doing, my man?
I am doing fantastic.
Nice.
The weather's great. It's that point of year here where I don't feel like doing shit ever. I just want to go outside and hang out, stare out the window all day, wishing I wasn't working, you know.
Yeah, like every day, really. No, I get exactly what you mean. It's starting to turn nice here. We're getting like that kind of spring thing where it's kind of sunny but still cool, and the dog's going a bit mental in the garden because there's stuff coming back. So yeah, it's a lovely time of year, and we are now approaching 10,000 all-time listeners. So we're not far away. We're only 500 listeners away. But we've had over 110,000 downloads, which is really amazing. So I can't thank everyone out there who's listening to this enough. You guys are amazing. And if you don't know already, we do have Instagram and Twitter. I'll do this now instead of at the end of the podcast. So our Instagram is at History's Greatest Idiots, and our Twitter is at Greatest Idiots. We are also available on YouTube. If you go, I can't remember what the sub, because the letters and numbers and jumbles, so just search for History's Greatest Idiots on YouTube. You will find us there. We do have our own channel. We don't have our own Twitch channel, but we kind of broadcast on mine, which is at Wild the Anger on Twitch. So yeah, and also we have a Patreon account, which is patreon.com/History's Greatest Idiots. Be our first Patreon, please. We need money. So we've got all of the socials and all of that. And occasionally I post some of the reels on TikTok. I have a TikTok where I just post all the work I do.
I can't remember how to log into my other TikTok. I had to create a new one.
Yeah, I think we're starting to get left behind by technology a little bit at our age, aren't we? I did a degree in multimedia. That was 1999. So... That was that was a long time ago. That was
multimedia, radio, TV, video,
TV, and HTML. That was it. There wasn't even a C+. It was just C. That was all I learned. So yeah, holy shit, so long ago. I'm really dating myself. So it's been an amazing week. Everyone seems to be doing really well. We're growing really nicely, but we are in episode 7, season 2. We've covered some really amazing people, and I'm really looking forward, because in this episode I get to use, for the people who are watching live and the people who watch the video after the fact, I get to use our first interactive element today in the form of a slide to demonstrate the amazing person I'll be covering. But for now, Derek, who is your idiot this episode?
Okay, so I feel like I've been covering a lot of people that are still alive or missing or in prison or whatever. And I kind of wanted to do history, older history, I guess.
Yeah.
And as you know, I love to cover folks that have done bad or horrible things. This isn't one of those, though. This is kind of different. And I guess it depends on who you are, whether or not you think he was a dick. But I'm going to cover somebody that most people would generally accept as a decent person. The twist on it is he just did something so completely stupid that he managed to get himself killed. Ooh. And that's always fun.
Yeah, we like covering people who there's a subjective element to their existence, but the way they died is kind of fucking stupid. I think the first person that jumps to mind is Herb Abrams. who the wrestling promoter that we covered, who blew a shitload of money and died. Right, let me make sure I get the sequence right. Naked, chasing prostitutes out of his office, covered in baby oil and cocaine, while being arrested by police and swinging a baseball bat.
Good grief.
That's how Herb Abrams died. And then we got Gigi Allen, who again, like, kind of not exactly, you know, there's elements you like, oh, he poos on stage, cuts himself, it's not so great. But the way he died on a drug-fueled, poo-covered rampage through New York City, that's kind of insane.
Yes.
But yeah, so tell us about this person, please.
Okay, not nearly as wild, but
right,
I'm in a dark way, super hilarious. Anyway,
okay.
So he was born on September 13th, 1813 in Cornwall, Connecticut. And just take a moment here to address the people that think like me or might have a triskaidekaphobia. It was a Monday, not a Friday the 13th, but it was still September 13th, 1813.
Okay.
Anyway, I got lost.
That's okay, don't worry.
So he was born, and they named him after his grandfather, John Sedgwick, who was an American Revolutionary War general that served with George Washington. And he actually survived the Grim Reaper. No, he did not.
Wow, that's amazing. Bill and Ted level of excitement right there. That's amazing.
No, he survived the Grim Winter in 1777 at Valley Forge.
Right.
So, long story short, this dude comes from a long line of patriarchs that served and leaders. His grandfather's brother was Theodore Sedgwick, the statesman, representative, whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
So it makes sense that he would follow along that path. And he started out with just the standard education at Sharon Academy for 2 years, and then went to Cheshire Academy. And then as a teenager, he went on to teach for a couple of years.
Nice.
During the winters. In the summers, he worked on the farm.
Of course. Yeah, that was quite common back then, like the kind of split season jobs. That happened quite a lot at that time.
I think that's the whole reason for like the way we have our layout here for our school years is based on agriculture.
Yeah, exactly. Because they'd need
summer.
Yeah, they'd have the kids off to till the fields with their family and shit. So they're like, we need the kids. We need them to gather before the fucking autumn arrives. So like, yeah, here you go, kids. 6 weeks off. Go and work.
And we fell for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So he did that teaching farming thing for a couple of years until he got accepted into the United States Military Academy in 1833.
Wow.
Some of his classmates at the academy would go on to become Confederate generals, including Braxton Bragg, John C. Pemberton, William H.T. Walker, which is awkward because he goes on to be a Union general.
Okay.
He graduated 24th in his class out of 50 cadets at the United States Military Academy in 1837. Yeah. That's a C
middle of the
right?
class. Yeah, exactly. You know, like, just get under the radar. Just like, don't pay any attention to me. I'll be fine. Just leave me to my own devices, please.
See, and for the most part, his entire career, outside of some of his brevet promotions that he gets there, I'll talk about in a minute, he did have a kind of middle of the road sort of career as far as generals go, I guess. Because anyway, he comes out of the military academy, second lieutenant with the 2nd U.S. Artillery, and he's sent down to Florida, where he participated in the Seminole War, which is war against Native Americans, and then he went on to see action in the Mexican-American War, where he did get 2 promotions. One where he made captain after his actions at the Battle of Contreras, and then after the Battle of Chapultepec, outside of Mexico City, he was promoted to major.
Wow. Okay, so
for gallantry.
This guy seems to because obviously he's a Union general, right? Essentially, but for someone from the Union, he seems to thrive in quite difficult environments. You know, like the Florida setting, you got Mexico. These are not Union weather strongholds. These are very warm, swampy environments.
Yeah, definitely not the cold the wintry north, like of Connecticut, where he's from.
Exactly. Yes. Very impressive so far.
Now, after Mexico, he goes on to serve in the cavalry, and he goes to Kansas. It is a little bit more cold like home, but still. Yeah. And he wanders on into the Utah War, where he puts down some of the uprising with the Mormon settlers.
Of course.
Yeah. And, of course, participated in the Indian Wars throughout the 1856, 57.
Yeah.
In the summer and fall of 1860, he commanded an expedition to a new fort on the Platte River in Colorado, which was in a really remote BFE location where they didn't have any railroads. And so they were carrying stuff like wagon train and riverboat and horseback.
Oof, wow.
And a lot of it didn't go as planned, and most of the supplies didn't arrive.
Oh, shit. That's really not good.
That said, they had a decent winter because they managed to get up some comfortable stone buildings, and they all weathered it out there before the cold weather got there.
That's smart. That's very fortunate, actually, because no supplies, harsh winter, that could have been the end of the entire army at that point.
And he did well and was promoted to lieutenant colonel and was sent to Washington, D.C., back to the cold, white north. That brings us to the start of the American Civil War, where he served as a Union officer, like I said. When the war broke out, he was serving as the Assistant Inspector General of the Military Department in Washington.
Okay.
And on April 25th, 1861, he was promoted to the full rank of colonel and placed in charge of the 1st Cavalry after its commander, Robert E. Lee, resigned. I wonder where that guy went.
Yeah, what happened to old Bobby?
Yeah. So that said, he missed early action in the war at the first Battle of Bull Run because he got cholera.
Oh, you get cholera. Holy shit, that's usually the end of a lot of people. My
and he
God.
Survived it, missed a battle, and was promoted to brigadier general.
That's insane. So he got a horrible, lethal illness, missed the battle, and got promoted. This guy is doing all right for himself at this point.
Well, and this is not the only time he's going to survive some shit that most people didn't back then. Wow. So he recovers. He's promoted to brigadier general on August 31st, 1861. He's now the commander of the 2nd Brigade under Major General Samuel P. Heinzelman.
Okay.
It's fucking, there's so much military in here that I just kind of copied and pasted. He ends up commanding the 2nd Division of the 2nd Corps for the Pennsylvania campaign. And then in Virginia, he fought at Yorktown and Seven Pines.
Wow. Big battles there.
And during the 7 Days battle, he was wounded.
Oh, wow. Okay.
After the 7 Days battle, after the 7 Days battle, he was promoted to Major General of the Volunteers, and then as the commander of the 2nd Corps and Major General, participated in the Battle of why do I suck at these words? It's not that I don't know them, I just can't say them.
It's okay, don't worry.
Anyway, so he gets into this stuff, and the division's commanded by the Confederate, by John.
Yes.
And he engages Confederate forces that are under the command of Major General Stonewall Jackson.
Ooh, now another notable figure. Stonewall's kind of a legendary figure in terms of his ability to rally troops, right? That's like his big thing, like the war cry, and he literally got his name from the stone wall.
Yes.
So, yes.
Well, and then when John comes in with his division and comes up against Stonewall Jackson, he ends up being attacked on 3 sides. Oof. And the Confederate forces are super successful.
Yeah.
John's division was routed. He fell back, and during the battle, he was severely wounded. Jeez. And only returned with about half the men that he started the battle with.
Wow.
And he himself, he was shot 3 times in the wrist, in the leg, in the shoulder.
Jesus.
Yeah. And he was out of battle until he showed up at the Battle of Fredericksburg.
Right. Wow.
So wounded in another battle, shot 3 times in this one, survived cholera. He's doing pretty all right. Maybe he thinks he's invincible.
I mean, why wouldn't you? At this point, you've survived more diseases than like an explorer, and you've been shot more times than 50 Cent. Who wouldn't think that they were invincible? You know? Like, I can't be stopped. I mean, yes, I got a bunch of people killed because I went up against one of the greatest generals in the history of American warfare, but still, you know, and it's weird because this is the thing about when you research from an outside of America perspective, you hear a lot of Confederate general names, right? Not so much Union, and there's this perception that the Confederacy was doing really, really, really well, and they had some amazing thinkers and some great generals and some really incredible tactical thinkers. But the Union at the same time was fighting with one arm but tied behind its back because it had so much manpower that at any moment, if it just threw numbers at the opposition, they would eventually have just won. So it's weird to hear that this guy, despite being a middling student and despite getting shot and having cholera and shit, is actually doing okay. I mean, he wasn't going to beat Stonewall Jackson. Very few people did. So that's kind of amazing so far. So far, I'm kind of impressed with this dude to an extent. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I mean. And he's got a lot of shit named after him too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's generally hailed as a hero, but
sure.
Back to where we were at here after the Battle of Fredericksburg from December 1862, he continued to lead the 2nd Corps and then on to the 9th Corps. And then he ended his career with the 7th Corps of the Army of the Potomac, where he commanded until his death in 1864.
Oh, wow.
At the Battle of Gettysburg, his troops arrived late on July 2nd.
Late to the battle. Holy shit.
Wow. And as a result, they were one of only few units that were able to take part in the final Union counterattacks because they were late.
Yeah, okay, sure.
They weren't kept together as a unit, but they were scattered kind of around, and him and his men performed exceptionally well at the Second Battle of Rappahannock Station, and they came away with 4 field pieces, 8 stands of enemy colors, and 1,700 prisoners. Which,
wow.
That's a pretty good win.
Yeah, that's a good little haul right there. Holy shit. Like the standards are a big thing, but the 1,700 Confederate troops, that would have been quite a blow for like a specific unit. That would render them very demoralized and understaffed and undermanned. That's quite something.
And so after that, they shifted on for the Battle of Spotsylvania Courthouse.
That's a great name. Just want to put that out there. Spotsylvania Courthouse. Holy shit.
And that will be his last battle because on May 9th, 1864, at the beginning of the Battle of Spotsylvania Courthouse, his corps was probing skirmish lines, and Confederate sharpshooters were about 1,000 yards away, just popping off rounds at him. Just
wow.
Pop, pop. And his people were ducking. Because
hold on,
people were shooting at them.
Well, yeah.
He was kind of embarrassed by that and wanted to rally them.
Why would you be embarrassed by people trying not to die?
Well, you'll see.
Okay. Sorry. I'm sorry. Carry
on. He was well liked by the soldiers, and they often referred to him as Uncle John.
Aww.
And so to reassure his men, he wandered out into the open, walking upright, and is quoted as saying, "What? Men dodging this way for single bullets? What will you do when they open fire with the whole line?" What? And they kept dodging and flinching anyway, and he stood up and said, "Why are you doing this? They couldn't hit an elephant at this distance." And now it's rumored that he didn't finish that sentence before he was shot. But it's also widely accepted that he didn't finish that sentence when he was shot with a Whitworth rifle fired from a Confederate sharpshooter that hit him just under the left eye.
Ooh.
His his chief of staff, Martin T. McMahon, said that sharpshooters' bullets were flying all around, making whistling noises.
Right.
And, quote, the same shrill whistling closing with a dull, heavy stroke interrupted me, and I remembered distinctly that I commenced to say, General, they're firing explosive bullets, when his face turned slowly to me, and blood spurting from his left cheek under his eye in a steady stream brought to me the first knowledge of our great disaster. He fell in my direction, and I was so close to him that in my effort to support him, I failed, and we tumbled to the ground.
Fuck me.
He never regained consciousness, continued to bleed out for some time until his hair and clothes were soaked with blood, and he was no more.
Oh my God.
I
like that. Sorry, just back to that account. So I said something to the general, and he turned to me, and I could see blood pissing out of his face. That was the first thing I thought was wrong about this situation. What?
Yes, that
would be a sign too.
I know that's super brutal, and I'm laughing out of nervousness, and just because it's comically so old that I'm allowed to.
You are, yeah. This is definitely not one of those too soon moments. No, this is definitely you are allowed to laugh at this. This is fucking insane.
So while he's saying nobody will hit the elephant, he gets hit in the face, he dies. He's the highest ranking Union death in the Civil War.
The entire Civil War.
There was somebody that technically outranked him, but didn't have time in surface or command.
Right.
So, but this is what they historians list as the highest ranking Union death of the Civil War. And upon hearing of his death, Lieutenant General Ulysses S. Grant just kept asking, is he really dead? Because he was super well liked. He was buried near his birthplace near Cornwall Hollow in Connecticut, and that is the short, interesting, brutal tale of Major General John Sedgwick. There's a monument of General Sedgwick at West Point, and the Academy legend has it that a cadet who spins the spurs of his boots on the statue at midnight while wearing full parade dress gray over a white uniform will have good luck on their final exam.
That's a very weird custom, but I get it. Why does a statue have spurs that can spin?
So you can have good luck on a final exam.
I guess so. Apparently, I
feel like that's a lot of fucking rules. I feel like somebody was like, "Oh wait, and make them do this."
Yeah, and also then it's only for the final exam. It's not. That's so weird. Circuit like traditions and stuff like that. I find really, really weird. Just completely off course with this complete tangent moment. I dated a girl in my first year in university who was from Kazakhstan. Yes, an actual person from Kazakhstan who wasn't Borat. She ate cake for breakfast, which I was like, can I not have toast? Do I have to eat this cake? She ate tongue sandwiches. And I was like, well, I know it's not. It does not taste good. And I wasn't allowed to whistle in the house. That was really bad luck. And my favorite one was we weren't allowed to kiss in front of a mirror in case it stole our love. I know.
That was kind of dope. I like that one.
Yeah, that's like fucking scary gypsy curse level shit right there. That's like really scary stuff.
I think that's why I like it.
It was so jarring to me. So hearing a tradition like that, where you have institutions like West Point's fucking hundreds of years old at this point. It's one of the oldest institutions in America, I think.
Believe so.
Been around forever, yeah. And half of the people that came from the Civil War in terms of generals and commanders and stuff, they were from West Point on both sides.
I know, right?
That's crazy.
That would be weird to fight against somebody that you graduated high school with, or college with.
Yeah, exactly. So you're sitting in class one day and like, there's this really hot topic coming up around the slavery thing. I mean, it's already outlawed in the North. I mean, you can't. That's terrible that these people are still owned by other people, right? No, I really like it. No, yeah, definitely would stand by that principle if it came to a fight. Yeah, For sure. Jesus. I don't think I'm going to hang out with this guy outside of class and then all of a sudden you're fighting each other a few years later. Yeah,
okay, I guess I can see it.
When you put it like that, it's political conversations between classmates. They rarely develop into wars, but that one certainly did. Holy shit. But yeah, it's so sad in a way, right? Because this guy, like you said at the start, middling student, essentially, did quite well as a commander, had successes which certainly the Union didn't have in the early stages of the war. There weren't that many successes to be had. So for him to get promotion after promotion after promotion is really good. But also, this is something that, I mean, certainly from my study of military history, is really rare, is that he was liked by his men and he sounds like a good guy.
Yeah.
Which, you hear a lot of military people, they are not nice people. And I mean, they might be respected by their men, but they're certainly not liked.
Right. Like
So,
Custer.
yeah,
God, nobody
massive
liked him.
arsehole. Yeah. You look, even for the time, a lot of these military people in every country, they are not the nicest people, even for their day, right?
I think you got to be a bit of a dick to do that job.
Yeah. It's the old Team America World Police talk where was it arseholes, dicks, and pussies and stuff like that. Like, sometimes you need a dick to fuck an asshole or something. Like, there's a whole conversation in the bar about liberals and Republicans and gun advocates and stuff, and they become like various body parts. It's really funny. But yeah, a lot of people in the military are big nationalists. They believe in their country. They believe in their cause. They're quite right wing, and they go hard in battle. So, great for them. Not going to spend too much time alone with them, but sure, great. That's fantastic. But this guy is one of the exceptions. I feel like I would love to know more about like his general level of ego, right? Because clearly his men knew something he didn't in that situation when there are sniper bullets firing around them and they're ducking. And he's like, stop being such pansies. And like everyone else can hear them flying past their heads and see them. So they're like, buddy, look, we like you, but this is one of those things where you need to duck.
I feel like it might have been because of surviving cholera and being shot 4 other times.
So maybe it did give him a bit of a, I am invincible, a bit of a god complex.
Maybe.
Especially in a war like that where hundreds of thousands of people are dying, every year, and you've been shot a bunch of times, you survived cholera, you would get a little bit of, and he's promoted as well. So with each promotion comes like a little bit of prestige, a bit of like recognition, a bit of, oh wow, I'm a brigadier general now. Oh my god, I'm like really someone. I started out as a C+ student back in the fucking military academy. In terms of, I mean, yeah, it's funny because there's so many different ways we grade idiots on this show, and there's usually like if someone's had a history of idiocy, and we'll get to someone like that in a minute, then usually they score quite highly. And if they're arseholes, then they score quite highly. And if they are monsters who don't understand how awful their actions have been, they get high scores. This guy is still going to get a high score purely because it seems that his ego ran away with him and he couldn't recognize his own fallibility, even his own mortality towards the end. So I am going to go, not massive, because he seems like a good guy. He was quite successful, and the Union ultimately won the war. I mean, he wasn't there to see it at Appomattox or whatever it was. So, yeah, it was almost there. It was almost there. So I'm going to go 84, I think, with this guy. If nothing else, if he'd just been one of these generals that history doesn't particularly remember and all of that, he definitely wouldn't feature on the show. But the manner of his death, as you pointed out before the show, is so fucking stupid. I wanted a bit at the end of his assistant's account. I wanted the last part to say, and then, as happens with all men when they die, he soiled himself. Just to cap it off.
I think that part was redacted.
And because he was wearing such wonderful clothing that was made of the finest materials, it just soaked right through into his bloodstained gear, and he dyed a shade of red and brown that I have not seen hence. So
it was missing the fecal.
It was missing the whole South Park episode where everyone dies and then immediately shits themselves violently.
God,
yeah, that was. Yeah, God bless animated American television. My God. So that's definitely. I feel like that's someone whose ego probably extended to the point where they no longer recognized danger around them.
I feel like trying to get his guys to stand up and then getting shot himself maybe saved some lives.
Probably, yeah. It would have driven home the danger of the sharpshooter. I mean, I know at 1,000 yards, we're talking about very old technology at this point, but at 1,000 yards, if you're hearing bullets whistle past your head, you get the fuck down and you stay down. You know, that's one of the reasons Vietnam on certain occasions was quite a disaster, because large groups of American servicemen were just walking slowly through open fields and getting picked off by people that were hiding in the trees. So you've really got to adapt to the situation, and this stupid motherfucker didn't. So God bless. What was his name again? It was one of those.
General John Sedgwick.
John Sedgwick. Uncle John General Sedgwick gets a solid 84 for not recognizing that bullets can hurt you, you know, amazingly. So from someone who had a successful military career and kind of fucked it all up at the end with one really stupid decision, to someone who was born into the most unbelievable power and success and wealth and fucking threw it all away, but was possibly one of the first notable, certainly when they revived his, because this guy was scrubbed from records for a very long time, was probably one of the first notable gay icons in British society at that time, in the Victorian era. Now, I'm going to go back. We're not covering anyone too recent in this one. So I'm going to take you back to the Victorian era and introduce you to Henry Paget, the Dancing Marquis. So, Henry Cyril Paget, very, very English name. The 5th Marquess of Anglesey was born in Paris on the 16th of June, 1875. He was the eldest son of the 4th Marquess by his father's second wife, Blanche Mary Boyd. However, rumors persisted that his biological father was, in fact, the French actor Benoit Constant Coquelin. A rumor that gained some currency when, according to some sources, after the death of his mother in 1877, when he was only 2 years old, that's tragic right there. Holy shit.
Yeah, early trauma.
We already know this isn't going to be good. Paget reportedly was raised by Coquelin's sister-in-law in Paris until he was 8 years old. Scandal. The English nobility is scandalized by this, but shit was going on all the time. The story seems to have been a confusion of facts. The sister-in-law, nee Edith Marion Boyd, was the 4th Marquess's aunt, one of his mother's sisters. Jesus Christ. And she did not wed Coquelin's brother Gustave until 1891. His stepmother from 1880 was an American, Mary Mina Livingston King, the widow of the Honorable Henry Woodhouse. So many fucking names and titles.
Lost.
Let's just say that this is a muddled jumble, and we'll just go with probably bastard child raised by someone else. Let's just go with that. It's easier than trying to remember a bunch of fucking intense names.
Yeah, I have to get out my pins and yarn and try to figure out.
Yeah. Ironically, we're going to be talking about someone who's very famous for using pins and yarn to keep track of things in a little bit later in the story. I'm going to keep that.
Okay.
The originator of that system. He attended Eton College because, of course, he fucking did. He's a rich prick. Later receiving private tuition and was commissioned as a lieutenant in the 2nd Volunteer Battalion of the Royal Welsh Fusiliers because part of the. No, I want to point out the Marquess of Anglesey. So Anglesey is a very specific part of North Wales. It's where I'm from. Anglesey is, if you look at a map of the UK and you see Wales, there's like there's the floating head just off the northwest of Wales. That's Anglesey. It has its own microclimate. So if it's raining on the land, it's probably very sunny over on Anglesey and vice versa. There's only 2 bridges on and off the island. It's got about probably 50 beaches.
Nice.
Yeah, lots of beaches. It's very popular with tourists, big farming community there. It's also got really great food because of the stuff from the sea. And there's a lot of history. There's a lot of Neolithic burial sites. So my mother's house on Anglesey is 200 yards from a burial site which is dates back 6,000 years.
Holy crap!
I know
that is some history.
That's history right there. And yeah, they can find signs that there was like cooking and stuff there because of like specific materials they found. So yeah, like Neolithic burial where they think potentially they may have burned bodies. So that's a little fucking dark history for you there. Holy shit. Cremation 6,000 years ago.
That's next level.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll talk about the Marquesses of Anglesey's, the Paget's holdings in the UK, but Anglesey's going to be the main focal point of this story. Okay. So on the 20th of January 1898, he married his cousin Lillian Florence Maud Chetwynd, 1876 to 1962. Yeah, she lived a long time.
Holy crap!
Yeah, that's a good life right there. Upon the death of his father, yeah, especially someone from that era, Jesus. Upon the death of his father on the 13th of October, 1898, he inherited his title and the family estate with about 30,000 acres, that's 75 square miles, in Staffordshire, which is on the border between England and Wales, Dorset, which is down at the foot of England, Anglesey, which we've already talked about, Derbyshire, which is in the Midlands, and all of these holdings, all of these estates, provided an annual income of £110,000 back in 1898. Now, for reference, in 2022 money, that's £13 million a year.
That's sick.
That's some
just
good
from
ass
owning
money.
Land?
Just from owning and operating the land. So typically what happens is they will lease the land to farmers who want to produce, and the farmers are given a preferential rate, and obviously they then use that to farm for sheep or cows, grow crops, whatever it might be. But let's be honest, the wealthy landowners in the UK, and this still holds true to this very day, they hire people to rent this land, to manage it, and they hire people to manage the estate. So all of these different farms are then managed by, maybe 2-3 people, and those 2 or 3 people are managed by one person, and that one person will walk into the Marquess's house maybe twice a year and go, "Here's a report. See ya." And that's what they do. So basically, he would hire someone to do all of this, and as long as this person was competent, he could basically sit back and do jack shit while earning £13 million a year. So
I think I figured out what I want to do for my life.
Just travel back in time to Victorian era and become a wealthy landowner, because that shit is the easiest life in the world. And don't let the aristocracy, and this is a big problem in this country, don't let them fool you. They have it fucking easy compared to the majority of us. I think that holds true in America.
Yes,
well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Remind me to tell you about a book I just read too.
Oh yeah, we'll have to talk about that a little bit later. Paget swiftly acquired a reputation for a lavish and spendthrift manner of living. He used his money to buy jewelry and furs, and to throw extravagant parties and flamboyant theatrical performances. He renamed the family's country seat Plas Newydd, which in Welsh means new house. On Anglesey, he renamed it to Anglesey Castle, which, fuck you, you English prick, it ain't no castle. And also, Wales has more castles per square mile than any other country in the world. And that's because castles were used as a way to control and repress the people of Wales, because they were constantly terrified that we were going to rise up and declare ourselves independent. So they built a castle every like 10, 15 miles and put like 40, 50 soldiers in there, and then they come out and like, fucking stop talking Welsh, and then go back in the castle. Stop having culture, and then go back in the castle again. Yeah. Use the pound, and then disappear again. Yeah, so he was very extravagant. He's renamed Plas Newydd to Anglesey Castle. By the way, Plas Newydd is a beautiful place. If you're ever there, the National Trust own it. You can go in, you can walk right through the house. It's full of history. It's kind of like a small, if you've ever seen something like Downton Abbey, something like that, it's like a much smaller version of Downton. I mean, the house is still fucking big, right? And it's still got like 30 acres of land with it. But it's much smaller than a huge country estate. It's kind of smaller. The house itself is full of history because the Marquesses have been in there for years. The first Marquess of Anglesey actually owned the America's Cup, which is really interesting. Yeah, I know. I didn't know that until I did my research. But also, there's a really amazing love story that happened between, I think it was this guy's sister and a painter called Whistler, but not the Whistler who painted his mother, a different Whistler who was an artist. Whistler was much older, and he fell in love with this woman. He adored her. He painted all these pictures, and he was so in love with Plas Newydd that there is a giant room in Plas Newydd painted floor to ceiling like an Italian Renaissance scene. So, like, you're sitting on a balcony looking out at Renaissance Rome or Tuscany or something like that, right? The whole room is like that. Everything on the floor. Yeah. It's not even the Sistine Chapel. He did the ceiling, he did all of the walls, and he did the floor. You're in the painting when you go into this room. It's fucking amazing. I swear to God, it's one of my favorite pieces of art because you are inside it, and everywhere you look, there's detail and like a little clue and maybe a love note to his like love and a deed for so and so and a thing to this. So it's like loads of references in the room. It's just one of the most amazing things, completely priceless. There's also I think there's a Rembrandt in there as well, which is worth like 40 million pounds. So there's plenty of art in this place, right? So there was this whole love story, and then Whistler goes off to World War One and is killed within a week. That was the end. I know, and that was the end. Or was it World War II? Anyway, he's dead in a week, and that was the end of that love story. But there's this like amazing treasure that lives on in this house to kind of remember him and his love. Anyway, that was slightly after this guy's time, but he set in place a haven for artists to come to and enjoy a kind of a lavish lifestyle with him. We'll talk about that lifestyle now. So he's renamed the castle. He then goes on to convert the chapel, which is inside the castle, into a 150-seat theatre named the Gaiety Theatre. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Know what I mean? A up. Yeah. Here, he took the lead role, opulently costumed in productions ranging from pantomime and comedy to performances of Oscar Wilde's An Ideal Husband and Shakespeare's Henry V. Early performances from around 1899 were mostly variety performances of song and dance numbers, sketches, and tableaux vivants in front of an invited audience of notable local people. Not many of those in that part of the world, I'm sorry.
So it's like old school Saturday Night Live.
More or less, yeah. Only he's doing it in his big fucking own thing. It is essentially the theater in Saturday Night Live, because that's probably like 150 people, right? Maybe a bit more. So if you think about the size of that stage, he's turned a part of his house into a fucking studio at an enormous cost.
I don't know. This guy seems cool so far.
I got to tell you, right? I know we talk about the show's called History's Greatest Idiots, right? The majority of the emphasis in this story is on greatest, because this guy's fucking amazing. In 1901, the Gaiety Theatre was refurbished and fitted out with electric stage lighting and reopened as a public entertainment venue. And for 3 years, Paget took his theatre company on tour around Britain and Europe. Instead of running his estates, he's fucking off around Europe with this troupe of actors under the name the Gaiety Theatre. Yeah, He's just doing whatever the fuck he wants with this £13 million a year that he's earning. Fuck that. And then he was like, I'm going to go even more mad. Fuck it. I'm not just touring. I'm going to spend everything. Unsurprisingly, his wife disapproved of his lifestyle. No shit. And obtained a decree of Nisi, I don't know, of divorce. On the 7th of November, 1900. The marriage was later annulled due to non-consumption. According to Lady Anglesey's grandson by her second marriage, the historian Christopher Simon Sykes, the breakdown of his marriage effectively gave Paget more freedom to enjoy his self-indulgent lifestyle. That's going to be a big key to this story. By this stage, he had already begun to mortgage his estates to raise more money. He's already overspent. He's spending more than £13 million a year at this point.
That's a bit of a spending problem.
That's a bit of an issue, I think. This is like Paris Hilton levels of insanity at this stage. Playing center stage in every performance with Paget, he became known as the Dancing Marquess by the newspaper gossip sheets. He used every show to put on a butterfly dance display adorned by costumes which would literally cost millions of pounds today. One costume would cost £1 million. A costume would cost £1 million.
Yeah, but why is it?
I'll tell you why now. There's going to be a lot of quotes from his biographer called Cyril Davis. So he didn't understand the concept of costume jewelry. He thought it had to be made real. Explained his biographer, who wrote and performed an acclaimed musical based on the life of the Marquis. Some estimate a diamond-encrusted costume for the pantomime Aladdin was worth at least £10,000 at the time, an eye-whopping £1 million at current prices. The costume was worth more than the house, and it was just left in the dressing room, and somebody nicked it. And so he made the decision to have another one made.
Oh, my God.
Okay. I know.
Well, he's cool, but dumb as hell.
He's so stupid. He's like, oh, so it's going to look like this? I'm just going to put diamonds over it. Sir, we have to get those from South Africa. They have to come from dangerous part of that. And the size of the diamonds you're talking, they're so expensive. Here's 10 grand. Off you go. Let's talk about another theft that happened involving him, shall we? This is an amazing story in itself, and this could be an entire podcast if we could find full details on it. On the 10th of September 1901, Paget attended the London premiere of Arthur Conan Doyle's stage adaptation of Sherlock Holmes at the Lyceum Theatre in London. At the time, Paget was living in the Washington House Hotel in London. Paget's French valet, Julian Galt, took the opportunity of his employer's absence at the theatre to steal jewellery to the value of £50,000. That's the equivalent of £6,539,130.43, or for our American listeners out there, $8,512,829.63, or for our Dutch listeners out there, €7,827,291.45, whatever the fuck, mini euros, I don't know. Tiny euros, little euros. So distraught at the theft, because at this point it's like, oh God, everyone keeps stealing from me. Maybe I should do something about it instead of just buying more shit.
Lock your shit up.
Yeah, maybe put it away. You stupid motherfucker. Distraught at the theft, Paget enlisted the help of Conan Doyle himself to find the stolen jewels. He's hired Sherlock fucking Holmes to find his jewels. Now, if you ever wondered where Arthur Conan Doyle's insane stories came from, this is one of them for sure. Like, there's no way this didn't make it into a story. So
you're a detective, right? Go find.
You write about the most famous detective in the world. You've got to be pretty good. Like this is the process Conan Doyle went through, right? So he's like, "What do you know about the jewels?" He's like, "Well, I left them in my room with my valet, Julian. Julian's French. He's disappeared. So have the jewels. That's all I know." Right. So your valet is French. He's disappeared. The jewels have disappeared. What else do you know about your valet? Oh, he has a French wife. Okay, where does she live? Oh, she lives in France. Okay. And Arthur Conan Doyle at this point is like, they must have gone to Iceland. No, he didn't. They were just like, he's like, no, he's definitely going to France with this shit, and he's going to hawk it over there, and you're never going to see it again. So basically, Galt was later arrested at Dover because Conan Doyle had hired a bunch of detectives in ports to keep an eye out for this suspicious-looking French dude, and he was in Dover. Like, basically, the only reason anyone's going to Dover is to leave the country. Pretty much, because you go, oh, White Cliffs, very pretty. Right, now let's get on a boat and get the fuck out of here. Galt testified in court that he had been instructed to steal the jewels by a French woman of his acquaintance called Mathilde, that wasn't even close, who had taken the jewels to France and was never found again. Although Galt's testimony was believed to be true, and I mean, I kind of believe that to a certain extent, he pleaded guilty at the Old Bailey on 22nd of October and was sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. So this guy never got his jewels back. That's $8.5 million just fucking spaffed away on a boat to France.
Wow.
So,
but they got the guy.
They got him. He went to prison for 5 years, which is surprisingly lenient for that kind of level of theft. I think I'd risk 5 years for that kind of money.
Yeah, yeah.
Because if they aren't recovering it when he gets out after 5 years, he just fucks off to France and he's a millionaire, right?
I don't know. I feel like people back. Yeah, it's because I'm looking back.
Yeah,
I just gullible. Think, God, if you just chill out and just wait like 2 or 3 weeks, or leave from somewhere else, or
like go. The best way to do it. There's 2 other ways you could have done it, right? What I would have done if I'd stolen millions in jewels at this point is I would have gone to either Newcastle up in the northeast, or I'd have gone to Holyhead. Now in Holyhead you can get a ferry, and you could do back then a ferry to Ireland, and then from Ireland you go to another port and get a boat to France. From Newcastle you can get a boat to Norway, and then from Norway you could go to Sweden, and then maybe Sweden down to Denmark, and then Denmark you could go to France. That way you're covering your tracks, right? You're going to multiple different ports, countries, jurisdictions, and like tracing you would be really difficult. But to hop on a fucking boat in Dover immediately is the stupidest thing you could do, and even more stupid than leaving millions of pounds worth of shit just out in the open for any fucker to steal. So yeah, it's
here, stranger, hold this.
Yeah, I don't think Conan Doyle was stretched with that one, to be honest. Trying to find these people, he's like, wow, Jesus, is all crime this easy to solve? They're all fucking idiots. So the list of Paget's extravagance went on and on. This is where it gets really funny. He bought a car that converted the exhaust fumes into rose-scented perfume. Yes, you heard that right. This man's car's farts literally smelled of roses. I have no idea. Why did you just hurt yourself laughing at that?
Oh my God.
I just rose-scented, rose perfumed, I beg your pardon, exhaust fumes. It's fucking insane.
So many questions.
I know. Why? Why would you do that? How much would that have cost?
How do you pull that off?
I especially in like 1900.
Who wears that?
Yeah. Fuck me. What's the point? Really, what's the point? He also had, and this is a weird description, he had a fleet of poodles. I don't know if they call it a fleet. Surely it's like
be a gaggle of poodles, wouldn't it?
Yeah, a herd, a murder of poodles.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. This is one of my most favorite extravagances. Also, we should talk about we'll talk about his car in a minute. But he made a ping pong jacket. Not even sure what that is, but he made a ping pong jacket and wanted it to be green, right? So what do you do in that situation? If you want your jacket to be green, let's say you have no budget, right? You just basically put it in a bucket with a shitload of green dye, right? That's what people do with no money. Say you have a little bit of a budget. You go to, I guess, like a tailor or a dressmaker, and you're like, can you change the fabric to green and maybe sew it up? And maybe that's, I don't know, a couple $100 to do something like that. Maybe it's a bit more expensive. Say you want to do that. You want to look good, right? That's what most people with a budget would do, right? His answer was to make the entire jacket out of emeralds.
Of course.
That was his solution. It needs to be green, right? So what's green? Emeralds. We're going to need a lot of emeralds, but I'm going to pay for that. Yeah, that's his solution. I want a green coat.
I would have had to go with grass because
yeah,
I don't have the budget. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, just cover me in grass. Oh no, wait, I have a shitload of emeralds. We'll use those. Records for one of his cars show it was modeled on a Pullman train carriage with revolving armchairs, tables, cabinets, and solid silver fittings. Why? It's a fucking car at the bargain price of £2,500 or just £265,000, which, if you could afford it today, that actually sounds like a reasonably decent deal for him, because like the fucking chairs spin around and the table spins around and the fucking thing looks like a train and it farts roses and it's made with solid silver fittings. Like 265 grand ain't that bad.
That's actually, that's Bentley style.
Yeah,
normal people rich spending.
Yeah, that's like, I have inherited a shitload of money. I'm an idiot. Let's buy a fucking train and pimp it out and put it on wheels and make it smell like roses. It sounds like a fever dream I'm describing right here. This is the kind of shit you drop LSD to dream up. Maybe he was.
Probably.
Yeah, there we go. The spending continued unabated until the inevitable happened. Paget ran out of money. In the summer and autumn of 1904, bankruptcy proceedings were started against him. He owed debts of about £560,000, or in turn, 2022 money, £65 million.
Holy crap!
$110 million. Just this one dude who was earning $13 million a year somehow owed $110 million.
He is bad at money.
I know. It makes fucking Elton John and Liberace look like Scrooge. It's fucking insane. Trustees,
but his costumes were fabulous.
Yeah, they were. Just emeralds because he needed green. Trustees were appointed to run his estates. And then began, this is amazing, 40 days of auctions selling off all the items he'd collected over the previous 5 years. They needed more than a month of continuous auctions to sell off his insane amount of crazy shit.
It was his worst Lent ever.
Yeah, I'm going to give up the world. One day alone was set aside to sell his collection of dogs. What? From poodles to collies. Don't sell his fucking dogs, you monsters. Like, take the emerald-encrusted ping-pong jacket or the fucking wacky races car that he's driving around in, not the fucking dogs.
He doesn't need the whole murder of poodles, just some of the murder of poodles.
Yeah, just a couple of murder of poodles, maybe one collie. I guess, like, when you have something that's described as a fleet of dogs, you probably have too many. Like, if you can wake up in the morning, roll out of bed, land on a bunch of giant poodles and then roll your way to the bathroom without your feet touching the floor, you probably have too many dogs. I would say at that point.
Could be an indicator.
Yeah. Another day of auctions saw 900 lots of silk-lined suits and fur coats put under the hammer. Yeah. I think when you have 900 silk-lined suits and fur coats, you probably got a problem.
So,
right?
That's like, he could go multiple years without ever wearing the same coat.
Exactly. He could nearly 2.5 years, let's say, nearly 3 years without ever wearing the same costume more than once. And by that, and let's be honest, after 2 years of wearing different clothes every day, you guarantee he's got at least 1,800 new items of clothing, right? Because he never stops buying. He's just insane.
Right.
He departed for a life in France on what would have been viewed as a meager allowance of £2,000 a year. Today, that translates to roughly 210 grand a year. Oh no, I have to live on nearly £250,000 a year. How will I cope? Do I have to? Are you going to have to buy a place to live with that? Are you going to have to? No, the place already exists. This is just my income. What am I going to do? I can only afford 8 types of cheese every day. It's so fucking, it's insane. He told French journalists, in 6 years, I have run through that fortune. Just how? I could not tell you. I think we can tell you.
Yeah.
Actually. I think it's the fleet of poodles and the fucking magic mystery tour car that you've bought there. Perhaps his perhaps his £3,000 a year bill for underwear revealed the extent of his spending problems. That's. I mean, what is he doing with his underwear to have to spend $3,000 a year? I've had some of the same underwear for 10 years.
No, they're edible.
For sure.
It's all Fruit Loops.
Yeah. It's all woven together using gold. Oh my God. I made that joke, and literally the next sentence, I had braces woven of threads of gold instead of the usual elastic webbing that other men rely upon to support their trousers, he said. You fucking lunatic. The buckles were of gold too. It's not hard to see where a good deal of my money went. He literally he embodies zero fucks, this man, right? He does not care.
His underwear has buckles?
Well, he made suspenders, essentially. Suspenders
okay.
out of solid gold with solid gold buckles. So they were woven gold. I was joking when I said that. He did it. Now let's get on to the topic I'm sure a lot of people listening to or watching this podcast are wondering. Let's discuss his sexuality or rumored sexuality there. Paget's outrageous and flamboyant lifestyle. Actually, you know what? Before we get to that, now's a good time for me to use our first ever slide.
Effects. I'm so
I know, effects. So if you're watching this, if you're listening, this is going to be lost on you. I will describe it a little bit in the commentary. But if you want to go and search for History's Greatest Idiots on YouTube, this will be featured in the stream. We're about an hour in, so search to that point and you will see this. Boom. That is Henry Paget, the 5th Marquess of Anglesey, the dancing Marquis. Now, if you look at the 3 costumes, the one on the far left, the first one, is the most famous, where he is reclining or sort of reclining in a chair, posed with one hand on his face and his legs kind of askew. He's wearing like a kind of a long robe. It's incredibly well embroidered. It's very elaborate. He's got the most incredible headdress that has like wings and like a kind of a peacock thing going on at the front. There are jewels everywhere on this uniform, and he bears, and this is something that people talk about a lot, he bears a striking resemblance to Freddie Mercury.
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah, I was gonna say he looks like Freddie Mercury if he dressed up like Lady Gaga.
Basically, yes, that's a very good description. And I'm kind of seeing now, because obviously Freddie Mercury had various different looks in his life. The more elaborate stuff, I kind of feel like may have been taken from some of these pictures, because these were around for a very long time. You look at some of the costumes, they are so elaborate. We've got like stuff from, I'm assuming, I don't know what this will be from, but he's wearing an incredible headdress with a crown and feathers at the top and like kind of a flowing gown. And then in the far right hand side, he's got an even more elaborate crown with lots of jewels and stockings, and like looks like the shoes are encrusted with jewels and just and then you can see the stage behind him as well. That would have been the theater, the Gaiety Theater. Amazing.
Wow.
And actually, you look at something like the Met Gala, say, for example, when people go all out on their costumes, I feel like he would look 100% in place in the Met Gala in today's world. 120 years later, he would fit in perfectly on the red carpet of the Met Gala, particularly in the one on the left. I could imagine Harry Styles wearing something like that. That looks kind of amazing.
I think he could pull it off. Yeah,
I totally do. What are your thoughts on? I mean, are you seeing now why he went bankrupt so quickly?
Oh yeah, the headdress thing on the one on the left with the big elaborate wings and stuff. You can see like that looks like there's jewels all in there. And if he only used real jewels to make this stuff, jeez,
fucking insane. I know.
Dude, somebody could have just ran off with that headdress and been rich the rest of their life.
They probably did, given how lax this guy's security was. It's kind of amazing that we see caricature people in shows and films and movies and stuff, and we're like, oh, this is so one-dimensional, this character, and it's so there's no way anyone like that exists in this world. This guy existed, and he did not care what people thought about him, what they believed about his private life. He was just like, this is me. I'm going to spend all of my money, like Brewster's Millions style, and I'm just going to enjoy my life. Damn the consequences. It's fucking crazy.
He kind of pulled off the whole like the good parts of Caligula.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's a lot of like decadence in this lifestyle for sure. Like he would not have been someone who was shy of, you know, an extravagant lifestyle, and you can just see that in these pictures. So there we go. That's our 3-minute slide or 4-minute slide of Henry Paget, the 5th Marquess of Anglesey. If you look, we'll carry on with the commentary now, but if you're interested in seeing that more often, please go and watch the video on YouTube. We'll probably do that more often now that I know I can do it effectively. You have to create a slideshow, but you know, never mind.
You'll have to teach me.
I shall show you. It's really quite straightforward. We talked about his underwear. We talked about stuff. Okay, so his travels took him to Monte Carlo, where one newspaper pronounced he had invented a new gambling system to take on the casinos and hope to break the bank. That didn't happen because he's fucking stupid. So we'll talk about his sexuality now. He was very outrageous and very flamboyant. His taste for cross-dressing and the breakdown of his marriage had led, particularly because it wasn't consumed, led many to assume that he was homosexual. Writing in 1970, the homosexual reformer, that's a job that still exists in some parts of the UK and the US to this very day.
How does that work?
I think we're talking about conversion therapy.
Oh,
yeah, those people. H. Montgomery Hyde characterized him as the most notorious aristocratic homosexual at this period. You don't know for sure, though. One journalist wrote, "I am driven to the conclusion from much that I have seen that there are men who ought to have been born women." Jesus Christ. No, this is 1900, so. And women who ought to have been born men. Bearing the form of a man, he yet had all the tastes, something even of the appearance of not only a woman, but if the phrase be permissible, a very effeminate woman. Wow, this is a gossip columnist of the day, basically, yeah, laying it all out there. Nora Shopland put it slightly more eloquently. She wrote that there is little doubt that Henry Paget must be included in the history of gender identity. That statement I completely agree with. Especially,
that sounds right.
Exactly. We've got to remember this is 1900. Queen Victoria is still alive. There are very puritanical views on not just like who is allowed to vote and who's allowed certain rights, but also on how people should behave. We're even talking down to how they should behave at the dinner table, how children should behave when they're around adults and shit like this. And here's this guy blowing £13 million plus a year on the most elaborate costumes and being as flamboyant as possible. There's no way people weren't talking about this back then.
Oh, yeah. This
crazy.
I gotta be honest with you on the respect of just like, I'm gonna do me. You.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, he's not smart about stuff, though.
No, he really isn't. And actually, there's more to it as well. There's no evidence for or against him having had any lovers or either sex. Performance historian Viv Gardner believes rather that he was a classic narcissist. The only person he could truly love and make love to was himself, because for whatever reason, he was unlovable. I suspect there's an element of losing his mother at a young age in that. Yeah, that's a lot of trauma for a baby to have, really. So the deliberate destruction by his family of those of his papers that might have settled this matter has been an assessment left speculative. So when they got hold of his diary and his letters to people, they burned them after he died. I feel, because the assertion is that he might be asexual. I suspect that if the family had burned his letters, I think they wouldn't have done that if he were asexual, because being someone who didn't have sex wasn't a crime back in the Victorian era. Being gay was. And this is around the exact same time that Oscar Wilde was sent to prison for what's called gross indecency, which was basically just he was caught having sex with a man. That's basically what happened. So Yeah, I think that the fact that the family burned his papers and letters kind of leads me to assume that he probably was gay, but there is still no hard evidence. So he may have been asexual, just incredibly flamboyant. That's it.
Maybe he just did whatever he wanted.
Maybe he just was him. He was completely unique, especially for his era. I mean, Oscar Wilde was flamboyant, but Oscar Wilde dressed very stylishly. Like he was like, what's the word? The best tailors in London, right? So he had the best suits, the best hats, and he just looked fucking fly, right? This guy is wearing costumes covered in diamonds and jewels, and that's another level. Like you said, Lady Gaga level costumes, basically. According to Christopher Sykes, he did not have sexual relations with his wife, who initially left him after just 6 weeks of marriage. Sykes has reported the closest the marriage ever came to consummation was that he would make her pose naked, covered top to bottom in jewels, because of course he fucking did, and had her sleep wearing those very same jewels. I get why he's doing this. It's a beautiful, artsy thing, but that effect is lasting 5 minutes until someone rolls over in their sleep or farts. Right, that ruins the effect.
Jewels are sharp, aren't they?
Like, yeah.
Imagine that shit would hurt.
And cold.
You roll over. Oh, yeah.
They're cold as fuck. And they're different shapes and different sizes. You roll over, you're like, they're getting stuck in your rib cage or whatever. That ain't fun. So yeah, he that was probably his way of saying, we're never having sex. Just stay there, covered in jewels. You're beautiful like that. So there's no concrete evidence, but the fact that he was putting on Oscar Wilde plays in itself was really, really daring, because Oscar Wilde had gone to prison at this point. So a lot of his stuff was kind of like, oh, we can't, he's a pervert. We can't put on his stuff in the theater. So the fact that he was willing to do that kind of makes him at least an ally, right? Which was a very, very rare thing around this time. On the 14th of March, while trying to conquer Monte Carlo, 14th of March 1905, while trying to conquer Monte Carlo, he succumbed to tuberculosis-induced pneumonia and died at the age of 29 years old.
Oh,
yeah.
There's a lot happening there early.
I know. He lived fast and hard and died young. Newspapers bleakly stated that there were no family members to greet his coffin when it returned to the UK, or even at the station on Anglesey ahead of the strictly private funeral. That's sad. Yeah. That's really sad. Yeah, that makes me really bad.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, I guess there's a potential there for like, oh, they've disowned him maybe because of his spendthrift ways, but I really hope it wasn't to do with his sexuality if that was the case. Anyway, as an only child, his title was inherited by his cousin, Charles Henry Alexander Paget. By August of the same year, his beloved theatre at Anglesey Castle had been removed and was once again a chapel. We want pantomime. Boo! Fuck you. In fact, almost every trace that Paget had been the fifth Marquess disappeared. All of his papers were burned. His pictures were taken off the wall. His name was stripped from records. They did not want his name anywhere near this stuff. Man.
That's bad.
Yeah, they're trying to disown him in every sense. In fact, let's see. The family estate was once again renamed Plasnewydd, which I'm fine with. Like, it's gone back to its Welsh heritage. It's not just a story about a wacky man who splashed money up the wall. It's also about a man who was erased from history, said Davis, his biographer. Queer history was once again erased. That's a good point. They're trying to... It didn't happen. Don't look over here. This isn't a thing in society. No, gay people don't exist. No, don't look. Let's see. Plasnewydd remained in the possession of the Paget family until 1976, when it was donated to the National Trust. Today, the house and gardens are open to the public, and the house contains an art collection, which includes a number of photographs of the fifth Marquess in theatrical costume. The photographs that survive Henry, however, show his love of costume and performance and remind us of his vivacious spirit. That's a quote from the National Trust. So they've done everything in their power to posthumously honor this man and make sure people recognize the kind of amazing person he was, especially for his time. In March 2020, a diamond tiara claimed to have been worn by the 5th Marquess was put up for auction, not by the Paget family, at the 2020 European Fine Art Fair in Maastricht. There's no proof that Paget ever owned the tiara. It was worn by Marjorie, the Marquess of Anglesey, wife of the 6th Marquess, at the coronation of King George VI in 1937. Paget's style was often been compared with flamboyant rock star Freddie Mercury. You can definitely see it for sure. We've mentioned that. In 2017, the actor and composer Cyril Davis, who's his biographer, wrote and performed in How to Win Against History, a musical based on Paget's life. The award-winning show was performed in the 2007 Edinburgh Festival before a tour of Wales and England. In 2019, the show had its Irish premiere at the Dublin Theatre Festival. The British-American fashion designer Harris Reed cited Paget as an inspiration for his 2020 collection, Thriving in Our Outrage. And there ends the life and times of Henry Cyril Paget, the 5th Marquess of Anglesey, the Dancing Marquis, probably one of the first gay icons in British history. So, Derek, thoughts? Kind of mad. Yeah.
I mean,
that's a life for 29 years.
It is. Like, so much happened. And honestly, like, a lot of good things.
Yeah.
Like, art is good.
It really is. This guy did not care about anything but art.
I wish there was more people that just wandered through life not caring about stuff.
Yeah. Well, the world be a better place if there were more Henry Pagets
I feel like it.
Just doing
I mean,
we'd
be broke.
You'd be broke, but you'd be happy. And this guy was happy, you know?
And and he went out like Doc Holliday, tuberculosis.
Yeah, he did. Didn't kill anyone on the way out like Doc Holliday, but yeah.
Which automatically gives him a lower score.
Didn't kill anyone.
Still a high score because he had 2 really expensive things stolen just because he left them out.
Just fucking lying around.
And he gets extra points because the person that stole it was extra stupid. So you get stolen. If an idiot can steal from you, you're an extra idiot.
You are really stupid. And actually, he had to go to Arthur Conan Doyle, who I'm not 100% convinced Paget didn't think was a real detective. I'm not. He may have thought, oh, this guy's a real detective. No, he's just an author. This guy writes books and plays. Don't think he's a real fucking sleuth, mate. But yeah, I mean, all Conan Doyle had to do was be less stupid than the other two, and everything was going to work out in his favor. So, yeah.
And because of that, I'm going to just go with, much like my guy's grades, 75.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Just because he was awesome.
He was awesome. You know, he was authentically himself. And God bless him for that, because more of us should be as authentically ourselves and make decisions based around what makes us happy in life, as long as they don't harm other people, ultimately. Unfortunately, this guy's decision to, I'm going to be me, and me is blowing £13 million a year, apparently, and then some, because he had £65 million in debt. Fuck me, that's like Enron levels of debt right there. That's crazy money.
To be fair, it was all trickling down.
Yes, trickle down economy. He buys jewels constantly from everyone. So there's the trickle down. It's like, oh my God, this guy's giving me like a year's worth of money in one go. So yeah, I'm happy with that. I actually didn't want, I had to tell this story because it's so fascinating. He's such an amazing character. He's definitely an idiot because he did not care about financial prudence at all. Like, if he just like set himself a budget for the year, if he'd just been like, right, I can go mad on £5 million this year, he'd have still come out of it with like 8 million quid, right?
Yeah.
Which you set aside. It's not, when you have so much money coming in, it's not that hard to be sensible with it, because a lot of the time it's just about putting it somewhere safe, you know? But he wasn't doing that. He was like, spend. And obviously probably not paying taxes, all of that. So definitely an idiot on that front, but such a decent guy in terms of who he was, and not to his wife, for sure. But probably shouldn't have married someone who was probably gay, I would say. Yeah.
Well, or your cousin.
Or your cousin. Don't marry your cousins. Fucking hell, British aristocracy. We just can't stop. So yeah, that's the life of Henry Cyril Paget, the 5th Marquess of Anglesey, the dancing Marquess. Scores a quite low 75, but I think we're both happy that he didn't score particularly highly because gotta love him. Good lifestyle. And then you have the I nearly said Confederate then, the Northern General, who, well, yes, almost general, who was not too concerned with sniper fire, unlike every other human being who's been involved in battle, who was like, oh shit, there's a sniper, maybe I should get down. No, gentlemen, stand tall, stand upright, stop ducking. They couldn't hit an elephant from... That's, yeah. Good night. I feel like the story from this episode is both of these guys were pretty decent in terms of human beings. They were decent people. They just let themselves get carried away with feeling indestructible, feeling like nothing could stop them. And reality does stop you. Sometimes. But as long as you... Sometimes, yeah. But as long as you're a halfway decent person, that's really all you can count on, I think, a lot of the time. So it's sad that they both died so young and that they both didn't get to live life to the fullest, but really interesting lives, both of them, in both circumstances. Yeah. I had a lot of fun doing this one, I have to say.
It's and I love, honestly, that we're not really sharing the people that we're going over beforehand. And I like that we're somehow still landing on the same themes.
Yeah, it's kind of mad, isn't it? Just for anyone who's out there who's confused about this, we don't tell each other who we're... I mean, I think we've maybe done it once or twice in the entire run of this show, right? I think I've maybe said, I'll go with this guy. I think I may have changed one at the last minute, but I think that was a specific reason behind that. But usually what we do is we give each other like a hint as to who we're going to cover, and then we're like, oh, it's a nice, pleasant surprise. So whenever we react, it's genuine, and I really like that. But actually, it is really nice that we're landing on similar themes with these people. They're either financial fraudsters at the same time, or quite nice people who are kind of stupid, or, so we're going along similar themes, and I like that. So we're never going to change that. We're never going to change that. We're never going to stop not telling each other who we're covering, because I like that surprise. I also like, it is. I also like finding out when I'm like, oh, I kind of know that name. I want to hear more. And then I'm like, oh, I've learned more than I knew before. So I like that aspect of our show.
I always learn because I hardly know anything.
I don't know as much as I think I do. I think I hear things tangentially and then I forget about them. And I'm like, oh, is that something that I should know? Anyway, thank you so much for the show, Derek. It's been amazing as ever. So if you're a decent person and you're listening or watching to our show, so that means you're at least a halfway decent human being because you're supporting podcasters. So if you're a decent person and you find yourself going down a route where you're maybe going off the rails, maybe you're giving in to some quite silly thoughts or approaches to life, maybe just rein it back in, because there's one thing that you can that will outlive you, and that's your reputation. So, go to your grave as a decent human being. Nothing else matters really, as long as people remember you for some good things. And while there are tainted legacies we've talked about this week, I certainly think that both of these people have come out on the right side of history, as opposed to the majority of the people that we talk to, and one of whose sentencing is coming up this month. So I can't wait to see what happens to her. That's right round the corner.
That show was good.
That was so good. Oh my God, watch The Dropout. It was amazing. Elizabeth Holmes, fucking fascinating, amazing performance by Amanda Seyfried. Oh my God, Amanda, if you're listening, that was really good. By the way, call us. We'll feature you on a podcast. Yes, we will. So until next time, Derek, would you like to say goodbye, please?
Bye, everybody. Thank you for listening. You're awesome.
It was so awesome. And thank you so much. We will see you again in a few weeks. Take care now. Bye.